This call is being recorded.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Brother Moore Neal. How you doing, sir?
Positive. Praise Allah. How are you, Brother Supreme Grand Governor?
Pretty good. Praise Allah. Pretty good.
How's your health?
We're good.
How's your health? Good?
It's coming along. It's coming along. Praise Allah. Is Brother Tony on us now?
Not yet.
Just you and me?
Yes, me, and Sister Marlon Hill here.
It's our Sister Moore Neal.
Yes, how are you?
I'm just great.
Yes,
But this is what I'm going to do. You know, because I try to be proficient and prompt. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask Sister Moore Neal to lead us in prayer so we can begin to open, because I have 8:02 here.
Islam.
Islam.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
The Father of love.
The Father of
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My God.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my
And
salvation.
my salvation.
By night.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy
Through his
prophet.
holy prophet.
Drew Ali.
Through Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Thank you, sister.
Islam.
Islam. Well, this is my first call for this particular series. So let me do this here first, having risen in prayer, praising Allah and acknowledging His greatness. I'd like to continue by honoring His prophet, Drew Ali, on January the 8th, 1886, in the state of North Carolina. I'd like to send honor to the prophet's forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who said, up, you mighty race, and accomplish what you will. What a man has done, a man can do. I extend honor to our first Supreme Grand Chief, Brother Edward Neely Hill, and to our present Supreme Grand Chief, Brother D. Fairley Hill. I extend honor to the Supreme Grand Council, Grand Body, all chiefs, members, faithful supporters. Islam. As always, I begin by declaring my intentions according to page 3 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, so it may be understood that as I begin to speak, that in my zeal, if I should say something does not square with the prophet, is not in accord, if I should make a mistake, they should be contributed to I, the speaker, the instructor at the time, and not to our prophet nor his literature, surely not to Allah, for as we know, Allah is perfect. From page 3, I will quote, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons there for good peace and happiness for all those that love Jesus. As I look around, I want to read something. From my Quran. And believe it or not, it's like that. We have that situation where you have the ink pen on the table and you can't find the pen. I have one of those situations. What I'll do is this. Chapter 25 says, "Ye are the children of one father, divided for by his care, rest of one mother." So I want to stop there. I need to say some words of the prophet from Al Quran. I chose them simply because I've been praising my Quran, praise the subject tonight is the role of the temple and the divine ministry in the community. And the reason why I want to talk about the role of the temple and the divine ministry in the community is because when we fail in these areas, when we don't, I'm not going to say fail, when we don't make the mark in these areas, it contributes to our failure. That's what I want to say. For example, when you think about a subordinate temple or a branch temple in the community, one of the first things you think about is they are representatives of the Moorish side Temple of America and the Moorish movement, and that they are. A temple in the community is a point where one can take out his membership, obtain his nationality, and I like to say membership is free in the Moorish side Temple of America. So if you should go somewhere and they charge you $100 or even $50 or less, then you may be in the wrong place. The prophet said membership is free all over the world. Of course, after membership, there are certain assessments, obligatory assessments that go along with membership. But membership is essentially free. But again, the temple, one of the first things the temple is a representative of the organization. People see it, they're supposed to see the embodiment of the prophet's teaching. A temple is also, or should be, a cultural center in the community, a place where the community can come and learn their history and their heritage, but not only learn their history and heritage, see these things displayed through the membership of the temple. Of course, a temple should be a point of information and community resource where the community can come, find help, so that they can make alternate choices in life about different things that they are confronted with. It should be a point of resolution. In some cities they have what's called an interfaith court, where they have taken the religious leaders, have come together and created a kind of court where the community bring their problems to this court, and this court render them advice based on, after listening to it. So the temple should provide a similar type thing. It should be a religious center. Religious center in the context that we should provide obligation ceremonies, services, burial services, memorial services. It has often been thought that we only can bury members of our organization. That's not true. Members of our organization should have special burial services. However, if one of our family members or friends mourn our Moorish ceremony, they too can receive our Moorish ceremony. The temple should be a place for training ministers and ministerial counseling, because for training, our sheikhs and sheikhs should be trained in the temple, especially in the cities where there are. I remember reading somewhere that when a person becomes a minister, all of the ministers of that particular state is supposed to accept them. Now, of course, I read this somewhere some time ago, not saying that that's the current policy, but I did remember reading it, and it had some validity to it. But again, the temple should train the ministers, because the temple should know the concerns of the community. So And when I say train the ministers, one of I think the greatest problems we have is method or methodology on how to approach the community, and sometimes we're misunderstood. But I'll come back to that. A temple should have a healthy relationship with the community and local government. A temple should have a relationship with the schools, the colleges, the hospitals, the fire department, the police department, and the funeral home in the community. Because we do bury our people, and since we don't own any funeral homes yet, we should have contacted at least one to set up standards in which Moorish Americans are buried. We should contact the police station because we are law-abiding citizens. So when we move a temple in there, we should contact and introduce ourselves. I'm Grand Chief so-and-so, and we just opened a temple up in the community. The same with the fire department. With the hospital, it's a little different. What you're presenting to the hospital, that if there are people of Moorish, of our faith, of the Islamic faith, that subscribes to the Prophet Noble Duality, that are terminal in the hospital, that are sick and want to minister, we have a ministerial list. A temple should have a ministerial list to provide to the hospital for those type of things. We should contact the local schools and colleges. Because we are in the community, and the Moorish American community is not a small community when you look at it nationwide. You know, we have a little size. We ain't big as others, but we do have a little size. If we look at it on paper, we're great. But at the same time, we need to talk to these people because they are going to be confronted with students in their school that are part of the Moorish Science Temple. And they should have an understanding of our culture and how to approach our children. So we have to have that relationship. Now, of course, to accomplish, things of that nature, you're going to have qualified officials and members. Officials and ministers in the temple. I mentioned those two, and I should just said ministers, because to be an official in the temple, you should have already been a divine minister. And the minister is supposed to represent the best among us. That's what the minister is supposed to represent. Now, if we have been properly trained, if we had the proper tools, and that's what part of these conference calls are to aid in, providing us with some tools to do the job. But, if we had those things, meaning that a minister should know the holy and the divine doctrine and how to administer those doctrines to the people. In other words, we should know what we believe or supposed to believe, what our prophet told us we should. And that's what we transfer to others. Not something we don't start hooking up, but stuff that we know. But he clearly states, all you have to do is look at this Moorish literature, Moorish Guide, and Quran, signed Constitution and bylaw. He said, have a deep appreciation for womanhood. Then that's one of the things that we believe, that we support. Having that deep appreciation. But in order to have a deep appreciation for womanhood, we have to be taught what that means. Or else we'll be doing one thing and think we're doing enough. We should know the history of the Moorish movement and our place in world history. I ain't talking about know which more feet dirt on the other. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about understanding that we are Moorish American Muslims in the universal order of Islam, that we represent the fifth Islamic school of interpretation. In saying that, I've said a lot. Because someone that is educated, someone that is well read, will say, how do you come to that conclusion? See, so we have to understand the history of our movement, understand where we're at in conjunction with world history, in conjunction with prophecy. These things, now I'm talking about the role of this ministry and temple. But before we can get really into it, I got to talk about the two elements. The minister should know the goals and objectives of our organization and our corporate mandate. To teach our members those things necessary to make them better citizens. It will help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity. Again, just like the deep appreciation for womanhood, we have to know what that means to help in the great program. What program? Again, this is where this call and others come into play, because what we're attempting to do and would like to do, with your permission, and when I say with your permission, your willingness to learn, is to share with you what we have learned, what we have applied, what we know what. I was taught long ago, if you have a working model and you're in an organization with a national complexion as ours, that if you have a working model in Baltimore, you try to share that working model with other cities where you may be at, for it is possible. It works in that area too. Again, the minister should be sincere and dedicated to the purpose of uplifting fallen humanity and must be obedient to instruction and have a trained eye for detail. That's very important, that trained eye for detail. It stops you from being misled. Understand exactly what you're supposed to do, what's its limits, what's its range. Understand so you'll be able to see and identify when you've been stepped outside. To be this minister and be effective in community, you got to have a good moral character. And you got to have a determined spirit to do that which is right. Not saying that you're not going to have any shortcomings, but you have to have that determined spirit to do what is right so that you can rise up, if you will, out of those shortcomings and accomplish what's necessary. So if all of those things that I just outlined are present, and we're going to move on assumptions first that they are. When a person or a group of Moors decide to set up a temple in the community, someone should be sent out to the community first. That person introduces themselves and the temple, or the prospective temple, to the community, letting the community know that we're planning to move in. And because we're planning to move in, we want to know some of the issues that confront the community. You go to the neighborhood association. You talk to the elders in the community. That's what we usually seek out, the elders, but they know what's going on in the community. And we talk to them first. In fact, you establish a relationship. You can do it as early as 60 days away from the time you want to move. 60 days. That's not bad. You start talking. Because you want to develop a relationship that once the temple is in the community, that the community will also take a integral part in the temple's function there. You won't have to come out for them. They'll come down to the temple, because in that 60 days or 90 days, in some cases, you have been talking to the community about the things that the temple will be able to provide, the things that the temple will try to address based on what is in it. If there's poverty in the community, then of course the temple should seek to remove that. If there's different issues in the community dealing with our elders, then the temple should seek to address those. Why? Because we are to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity, and all of those things are part of fallen humanity. All of those things. We can no longer sit in the temple now and just read our Quran, study our literature, and say our prayers, because it wasn't designed for that. If it was designed for that, the prophet would not be asking us to help him to do something. He would say, stay in the house and seek your salvation. He would not have told us in our Quran that our life is really gifted to us so that we could use to the benefit of others. When we can no longer be benefited to others, that we don't live too long. That's what the Quran tells me. In the chapter Social Duty, the Prophet tells us that we have been placed in society in which certain things, to carry out certain things. In fact, he said it can't be done, but in the bands of society. And he started talking about mutual obligations and reciprocal help and things of that nature. He tells us to be a friend to mankind as we want man to be friendly to thee. So thus, this is what we take into the community. Those same principles. See, if we want to build our memberships, and many of the temples are having problems building membership. And they said, well, why can't we gain members? We can't gain members when you're not presenting something to attract people to the temple. One of the things that attract people to the temple are resolutions to their issues. Find out what their problems is. Have some solution or try to address one of the issues they have. Sure, we would like to address the issue of mental slavery first. But you got to get the people in the temple. You stand in the temple howling in the mic or howling in the wind is not going to get it. Noble Drew Ali came out and he was among his people. He wasn't hiding up in the temple nowhere. He was among his people. He was an example for his people. He said we should have businesses attached to our temple, and he established the Moorish Manufacturing Corporation. And said one of his primary objectives was to hire our people. Why? Because the teaching of economic security is not as widespread as it should be among our kind. We might start small, but we got to start. Some people, some Moors are having problems getting the temple building itself. Finance is the real issue. It is. When Moors start, and some Moors start at the Moorish mission level, one of the things we have to understand is what our prophet taught us, is that it takes finance to uplift the nation. So when we first embark on this project, you should have some finance saved, if you will. See, because in any project we do, you want to be as effective and you want to be successful. And when we study our prophet's doctrine, he clearly says it takes finance to uplift the nation, meaning that you can't expect handouts. Although along the way you may be able to get certain degrees of charity or certain support. For example, in the city, if you have a program that addresses the city's concerns, especially where they have a money allotted, then you can request the assistance of a building, like here in Baltimore. You have something running, you run it for a year. That's basically the way the policy goes. You present it to the city, show where you've been using your own finance, your own building or whatever, and you show where it will effectively make a change in the city. Well, you know, in Baltimore, you may not know, y'all may not know, there's a lot of vacant houses here, you know, buildings where you can, and farmhouses. Matter of fact, you can even get a farmhouse here. Of course, you have to do some work in it, but nevertheless, that is the start. If you can't start like that, then you pool your resources of your members and, of course, divide the cost of your rent through the numeral strength of the temple. In that case, numbers become important. Now, saying numbers important on that level is not saying numbers important to disregard quality or qualifications. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your effort to gain members have to be greater. Why? Because you're starting on a membership base to support the temple. You know, that's one of the things we've done here. We've taken the numerous strength of our temple and divided our expenses by it and have been able to maintain it for some time. However, coming into this year and leaving the convention last year, we decided that we would start moving toward purchasing a building. The first thing is that establish a building fund. Now, here where that works in the community. If we're doing good works in the community and you let them know what you're trying to do, now the community too will contribute to your building fund and your building effort. But you have to be an integrated part, or an integral part of the community. We have to be. We have to be willing to work with other organizations in the community. At the same time, we speak to the community, you speak to other organizations, religious organizations included. If there's a church down the street, you have to introduce yourself. You know, in fact, where our new temple location is, there's a church right over top of us. On Sunday, there's some noise there. You know, we making a joyful noise to our Moorish Lord, and they making a joyful noise upstairs. Sometimes it sounds like they're coming through. So that means what? That we have to have a good relationship with them. So we both can have good meetings without disturbing the other. That's how that relationship thing comes into play. Again, as this call goes on, we will be taking different parts of what I just said. Like when I talked about the temple being a cultural center, we'll take parts like that and go deep into it so that we can understand what is being said. What I like to do tonight, and what I try to do tonight, is give you an overview of where we want to go. I'm going to pause in a few minutes to ask a few questions. But before I do, I'd like to say that in establishing the temple, there are different levels. There's also a legal level also. Some cities require that as a religious organization that you be registered in their state, especially if you're going to do some business. Some places don't, places like Virginia doesn't require that. In those cases, it is important that the temple itself be properly established. And I think I started off saying that it has to be properly established, meaning that it has to have all of the things that constitute it being a legal body. Now, I know that's saying a lot because we have different issues in different states going on. What I'm trying to do is give you the general approach. Some states might require something extra, but generally they're either required to be registered or they're not. I don't think anyone is just running around looking and checking in that manner. But I think what happens is, in the case you do bad business in the state, because the state here, the state of Maryland, issues a certificate of good standing to run the organization. So I just wanted to throw that out there to some of you grand chiefs or grand governors. And it's important that those of us that have those titles understand our role. The grand chief, and I spoke about making these connections and relationships. The grand chief is supposed to be making those. Sure, we can send a whole lot of people, but when you want to establish coming into a community, those relationships, again, you look to your best. The minister is supposed to be the best among us. Then you go from there. The grand sheik's supposed to be the best among sheiks. That's why I call it grand sheik. And a sheik is not just a trustee of the organization that's internally, but the sheik is a representative of the organization externally. So, again, those are some of the things that we have to understand. We should also understand, and I know a lot of us like to relax sometimes, but when the temple is established in the community and people come into the temple, it would be good if the people coming in the temple see us in our Moorish gods. That means that when we're around the temple, at least, we should be in our Moorish garbs, and the idea should be to get used to wearing Moorish garbs so that you'll be in them at all times. But until you can gain that strength, when you're around that temple, you should be in your Moorish garb, because you want the community to understand that we are a nation that has a culture, that has a way of living, a way of doing things. So we want to have that. We want to be out in that community, walking around with them garbs on. I know a lot of more company in secret, under the veil, and all that there in the sky. Those days are over with. The conditions in our community is too bad for you to continue to run around in disguise. You have to, if we are going to be representatives of God on earth, then we got to come in disguise. Then I say representatives of God on earth because the prophet is a thought of Allah, manifested in the flesh. That's God's thought manifested in the flesh. And that thought has given us an instruction. When you pick up on the thought, you become a part of it. That means when you do your part. Why? Because Allah is in man. And when you touch that, it's like touching those two pieces. But again, back to this community. Over the months, I've heard more, especially in this grand body, talk about reporting and the reporting system we have. And sometimes they misunderstand the purpose of that system. But the purpose of the reporting system is to let us know, both locally and nationally, the strength of the temple, what resources we have available, what financial resources, and if reports are filed properly, or any other resources that we have available. Now, to show you how that works inside a local situation, when you have your local meeting and you know what type of money you have available in your temple, you know how many ministers that you have available, which ministers are available on a certain day or a certain time. Now you can begin to set plans into place. Now you can call the local hospital and say, I have a list of ministers, and if anyone there of Moorish descent or Islam or the faith of Islamism needs a minister, please call this number here. Why? You have a list of people that you can count on. That's another thing, that's another element to our success. Accountability. So we have to be accountable. If the temple in the community opens up 7 days a week at a given time, it should be open on time, every day. And we should be in there. If it only opens 2 days a week, those 2 days, we should be there. See, because remember, the temple is a representative of the organization. Remember, the temple is a source of salvation to our people. And we have a responsibility. And the responsibility is so great that it doesn't just stop at your temple. If someone leaves Baltimore and comes to California or Chicago somewhere and attend the temple, they shouldn't be lost when they walk in your temple after having attended mine. Because we should be on the same page. That's what I'm saying. We should know our prophets so well that when they come there, they could ask the same question they ask here, and they're going to get a similar answer. But never a conflicting one. That should not be. Especially if we have been properly trained in this. Because the prophets say the breast of one mother will ye suck. That means we draw from one source. We all draw from one source. That doesn't mean that we can't study a whole lot of things. We can. I know I have. But I know I'm drawing from one source. And when my mouth opens up, it has a sound of the prophet in it. I employ the methodology of Moorish science and the religion of Islamism and the faith of Islam to my situation wherever I go. So, having said that, here's a question. What are some of the issues that we're having in the community? What are they? I know I talked about a lot of things, but what issues are you having in the community? Because, and the reason why I present that question is because this is how we're going to have to solve it, by brainstorming. Brainstorming, those of us that have had the experience or a long term of success have to share whatever techniques that we use to maintain that success. Those that haven't been successful have to speak up and say, I haven't been successful. I am having a problem with this or that. Oftentimes we look at leadership and just think leadership will hand us some answers down. But you got to remember that leadership is made up from membership. You know, and leadership is supposed to work hand in hand with membership. Why? We all supposed to be following the prophet. Just like here in Baltimore, these Moors following Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Yes, they'll listen to Edward Steele, let Edward Steele start talking outside or contradictory to Prophet Noble Drew Ali that are in that right there. Yes, we listen to each other as long as we're in conformity with our prophet. That's what keeps us tied together. And to be tied properly, again, you must know your prophet. You can't mistake him for Lincoln or nobody else. You know? You can't think that he reincarnated. You know, though we have more that believe that. And that's all right for them. But those of us who know Drew Ali well, that may not be all, that's not all right for us. So, who's on the line? I know Brother Moore Neal on there. Brother Moore Neal.
Islam.
Because you know how I am. Tell me about California. You know.
Well, in California, there's a lot of confusion in regards to the true teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Moors are mixing teachings from all over the place. And those who are mixing teachings have come together and formed what they call the Khalifa, which represents California in their eyes. And they draw from different sources, some Sunni teachings, some sovereignty issues. They recently, we've had one of the worst things that could ever occur in anyone calling themselves the Moorish Science Temple of America. Had a brother down here who nationalized a European a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I did see that.
And he, the sad part is, he came up under us when we were Temple 24 years ago.
When you say came up under you, who came up under you?
Brother Victor Taylor Hill.
Oh, Taylor.
Yes. Okay.
Kind of.
So he's they're trying to get us in tune with the international community, as they call it, and they're under the impression that we're not recognized by any Muslims internationally, any government internationally, and they are trying to rectify that. He has taken a trip to Morocco, and now he's under the impression that he is an ambassador for Morocco. And this is a big issue. I see that when Moors turn away from the true teachings of Prophet Noble Jurali, as Allah demonstrates in Holy Quran and Mecca, He actually allows them to go astray. All these ones who have turned away from the teachings, some type of virus has entered into their consciousness, and they go left.
Okay.
And it seems to be prevalent here in the state of California. Also, we have Moors who have issues with the fact that the Moorish Science Temple of America overall is divided into different grand bodies or groups that calling themselves the grand body. When the Prophet said there's only one Moorish Science Temple of America, and it's mine. So they are waiting on us in a way to bring things together, and they'll decide what they're going to do.
Let me ask you a question, Islam, before you, excuse me for interrupting you, but I need that. You have explained to me, what is going on as far as the Muslim conscience, right? And supposedly conscious community. What is going on with humanity in California? And the reason why I ask that question is sometimes we waste time trying to bring a lot of these old Moors into the temple that's been around forever, that are in the temple demonstrating. That's nothing new with a more nationalized European. They had one done at 3810 Wabash Avenue, and years ago they had one at Dr. R. German Day. And I'm not saying that to promote it. I'm saying that that is not something new. When you see something like that, the question is, what do you do? How do the legitimate organization address it? See, we can always stand back and talk and condemn it, but we have to address it. The thing, the brother going to Morocco, Jerry Lewis, they went to Morocco. You understand? Frederick Turner Hill went to Morocco, to establish these international relationships. See, we think we are not recognized internationally because we don't know who we are. First, we are Muslims. Before you, in this going, you have to use a Muslim. If you're a Muslim in the true sense of the word, then you understand that the things you think that separates us from the Islamic world is not so. All you have to do is be born with no arms and legs. According to some, they'll have you thinking you can't get in paradise because you can't go through some motion. But when you understand the book, it tells you that the primary mandate is prayer. The secondary mandate is manner of prayer. What I see is this. Brother Moore in situations like that. That has been going on since 1929. Moors popping up, doing something. The question is, what do we do when they pop up? For example, a while back, Brother Ball Bay was killed in St. Louis, I think it was. Many of the grand bodies spoke out. They gave what was called an official press statement or whatever. Sometimes we have to get past the illusionary tribal concept and speak out as one. What do I mean by that? All of the Moorish leaders and so forth, that know that that is not a part, then they should speak out. They should inform their members first, and then inform the members the history of it, so that they will know where it came from. You know, yes, there was the brother in Chicago. He wrote books. Matter of fact, he's the brother that rewrote Kirkman Bay's Mysteries of the Far East and published it. He's a European, and he has an L on his name. He received that at 3810 Wabash Avenue. There was a European there with Dr. R. German Bay, Adrian Wallacefield. So we might want to call it Turkish and everything, all of that stuff. The bottom line that he was. So when I see that head raised up again, I say, oh, look at that old trick. They're trying to play an old trick that has not been successful over again, because we always believe that we cannot succeed without having those Europeans in our midst. No. How you doing? I'm on a conference call right now, but how you doing? Okay, you all right? Praise the Lord. These things are old. I'm going to Morocco and meet with the Sultan and create some international connection. Man, Morocco or nobody else will want to be connected with us with the way some of these Moors acting. So you can go make all the connections you want. If you're talking like a fool, then you're not bringing the profit there anyway. You're bringing something you done put together. There's no Khalif in the Moor time. See, things like that make our job a little harder, but it make it worthwhile. So when something rises up in the community, and this is why I said that the temple is supposed to have a relationship with the police department, the local government. Why? Because when things rise up like that, those people are supposed to be turning to you to ask you the legitimacy of those people. Why? Because you are the official representative of the Moorish Temple of Amman. And it doesn't happen because we say it. You have to work into that. That's why I said when you go into the community, you make those connections. You meet the police chief, the district commander, whomever. Say we down the street. When we have events, you call the police station and say, we're having guests in from out of town. Will you send an extra car for you? This is something I'm not just saying, I'm saying something we practice. See, because we've had Moors come in to our cities from other cities and have their cars and things robbed. And we're not that great where sometimes we can provide enough security, especially if you have a whole lot of people. So you employ the security of the city down there. And when you have people, again, coming in, like down there in California, see the Moors in Colorado, the Moors in Chicago, Moors in Baltimore, Georgia, we really can't combat that problem in California. The Moors in California must correct that issue. Yeah, our task again, that temple in the community's task ain't just to be set that. Then oftentimes I say this, and I say it to all them Moors that say they want to defend the prophet. when the time comes to defend the prophet, very few of them want to defend him then. Sometimes it means standing up and speaking out. Sometimes it means going against a great odds. The prophet did. If the prophet didn't stand up, we wouldn't have this now. If the prophet had turned his back, we would still be niggas. But the prophet didn't turn his back. He stayed here. He dealt with them Moors till Allah called him home. And them Moors were vicious. When you read the letter, say you should be loved. The Lord is loved as the prophet. Love was love. You better check out how them Moors treated the prophet. But he maintained. Why? Because God had given him a mission. And we have to look at it as though God has given us a mission. So there's some issues in California. Then that means we should be getting a strategy together. And when we're not big enough, then you just need a big brother. Take care. No use of howling, we prophets more, if you will. Because when the wind blow hard, we everybody but the prophets more. We don't want to be nominal more. And what does that mean? That means more only in name. We have a lesson here, we call that an harmonic change. Same what it means in music. Change in notation without change in sound. We dress up and still act like we used to. You know. The reason why I bring it up because in our used to state, we were suffering from mental slavery. Mental slavery taught us and teaches us to be dependent upon others for solutions, for everything, for our food, our clothing. We look to others. Our problems, we look to others. See, mental slavery teaches that, but the prophet comes to release us from that. That's why he said, if I can get you the thing. Some say, when I get you, you can save yourself. See why? Because when you begin to think, and really think, and thinking is a science. It's a science. There's concrete and there's abstract thinking. You need them both. One is an ideal, the other is a manifest. It's that abstract thinking that enables us to develop means and ways to address the issues that face us. Now, one of the first things I think, Brother Moore, when you have a situation where there's an identity problem, is to clearly identify oneself. See, the government is not going to identify who is and who isn't practicing, and listen to my language, mainstream Islamism. I say mainstream as opposed to grand body because you don't want to condemn everybody. You know, Jesus' disciples came to him about them people down there was casting out devils. He gave a powerful lesson, the same lesson for us. If they're casting out devils, stop condemning them because they ain't with you. That's right. If they're casting out devils, stop condemning them because they ain't with you. Why? Because we're in different places, not because some of us chose to. Some of the information some of the people got, that was what they got first. They may have joined under brother so-and-so first, may not even heard of us, and been there 10 or 15 years. Now we want to condemn them because they're not with us. Have we ever thought that that information hadn't came to them yet? And even when it did, after being taught 10 years into one thing, they're not going to be easy to give up on that. If they give up easy, if we gave up easy, we'd give up on what we had. So you have to work with that. You have to explain that. And there is a division problem in the Moorish Temple of America as far as structure is concerned. The only unity right now, this day, that we can hope is unity in doctrine. Because if we're unified in what we're supposed because it's clearly old leaders have to move on. And Allah called them home in time so that the young can move up. And when I say move up, the young move up, I'm talking about those that the prophet prophesied would come in with the eyes open. See, that's the era we're moving in, because they are the ones that will have the answers to the problems we are confronted with. And if we find ourselves baffled, then we know that we're one of them old Moors getting ready to go to the back seat. Because you don't have the answer, why continue to set in the way? So, what I'm saying to the Moors, and I know many Moors that will call on the call or didn't call in the call, think they know already the purpose of the temple in the community. Moors think it already, but this is the question we have to ask ourselves. If we already knew, then why we haven't been successful? I'm not talking about individual successes. The prophet created a national organization that no leader since his passing, had moved this movement one fragment since his passing. They just think they had. Only thing that's happened is we have been fighting each other so much so now that we can be imitated by anybody. That's why we have these groups popping up, claiming to be us. They say when it has been taught, and I was taught, that when your standards are low, anybody can imitate you. But when your standards are high, imitation is nearly impossible. Our standards have been low so long that somebody can stand beside you, call themselves a sheep, right beside you, talking to somebody, lying, and we won't know what to do. But let me try this. Let me put on a police uniform and stand beside the police and act like I'm the police and not. Let me put a judge's uniform on and act like I'm a judge and not. See, that's what we got to understand. Now, the role of the community is to represent the prophet in the community and represent the things the prophet stands for in the community. I live in a city where there's 7 temples. My major job is more than 7. My major job here, and the major job of the members of Subordinate Temple 13 years, is to be a representative of the prophet. When the government look and see us, they're supposed to see the prophet. When the city looks at us, the community, they're supposed to see the prophet. And if they see the prophet, we become the yardstick as to what is Moorish around here. In fact, if the standard is setting right, the other Moors will attempt to rise to the standard.
That's right.
They'll try to get better. So, I'm familiar with Brother Taylor here. And in another setting, another time, we can have some conversation regarding that. But I'm familiar with it, like I'm familiar with that old idea. Brother Morning here.
Islam.
Tell me some more about California.
Well, here there are issues. This whole thing revolves around representation. As you mentioned, the ones who truly represent the doctrine are the ones who are going to stand out. And Moors have issues. We all love one another. We all love the fact that we're all Moorish Americans, even though some of us are in different places as Moorish Americans. We are united in a sense that that we come together when necessary. Okay, just like it was mentioned with Brother Taylor Hill, as soon as I got news of that situation, I went to go see him, and basically to listen. I'm a good listener. I quoted the Prophet's laws. He gave his rationale, and incidentally, that temple has recently dispersed. They called themselves Temple 101, and as of today, Temple 101 does not exist anymore. Also, what's really going on is a filing demonstration. In order to represent here in the state of California, you have to file. You have to be on the books because we're collecting money, and this money, people write this off on their taxes. So you have to be registered with the Secretary of State as that type of entity. And there are issues with that right now. Okay, the people in California mostly are, well, a lot, especially up north, and a few down here, are involved in the sovereignty state of mind. That's a big issue here in the state. And, more on the impression they don't have to have driver's license, they don't have to have license plates and all that kind of stuff. Those are outward issues. Bottom line is the morality issue here. This is Hollywood. We call it Hollyweird. And, the morality here in the state of California is out of control right now. There's a lot of homosexuality going on. There have even been ones joining different temples who have a history of this type of conduct. We have families that are not united legally. There's always someone who's trying to do something, but without the morality clause, like when you are a family, you need to have a husband and wife. There should be a marriage license and all of that.
Okay. Let me ask you a question about that. You're talking about members in the temple?
I'm talking about a lot of members in the temple, yes, and the community overall.
Well, as far as the community, that problem, a lot of those problems, like the one you mentioned about homosexuality, is throughout, right? This is where the focus of your temple comes into play. You come into a community, or we just look at the greater society. There are a number of problems that are prevalent across the country. At some point, the temple must take a stand against or for something. Sure, these problems exist. The prophecies say these are the last days and times. They're supposed to exist. It says in all of the scriptures, it prophesies that in these days, certain things would happen. It even prophesies what you say, that there's a time would come when Allah would place a veil over some people's eyes. And although the truth was in their place, they couldn't see it. So we're living in those times. That's why I pose the question, what are we supposed to be doing? The problem is clear. For example, I'm going to pick on a problem. Homosexuality is clearly in the community. I know it's deep in the community, but in California, but it's clearly there. And the government is clearly making an effort to make it acceptable. That's why it's using the tools of socialization in schools and newspapers, the media, to make it acceptable. You look at TV, there's something gay on almost every show. That's because the government is trying to make it morally accepted among the country. So as a religious body, we have a responsibility also to our people. For example, someone came to the temple and wanted to know if we perform same-sex marriage. And it is legal in this state. But we don't perform that because our doctrine teaches us that that union is for man and wife. Man and woman, that wife and clarified wife for you. Man and woman. So we can't be forced to go against that. And how do you change a community where you got a government that's working a big machine to hoodwink the people? How do you change the people's mind? One mind at a time. See, my focus is on the temple. I know all them other things exist in the community. But the question is, can we bring these people into our temples? Can we touch them? That's our job. We're supposed to be able to touch the people with the lessons that we have. We can condemn them, surely. But Allah tells us that their souls is just as precious as ours in His eyesight. He tells us that. So if it is, that means we have to be delicate with their souls. What I mean by that, we have to follow what our prophet said. He said, be an example. In the city of Baltimore, for example, there's 7 temples here, but those are not enough. Those 7 temples do not have enough money. Enough that too, but enough members to bring an effective change over the entire state all at once. So we have to target areas first in the city. Those temples have to pool their resources to target an area and then move from there. What I mean by target an area, this year we are targeting politics. We are determined to have Moorish representatives throughout this city. Local government. Why? Because historically we took a part in building the government. Historically, our prophet supported Oscar the priest and Anderson, Dawson and Blackwell. He supported them. So that's what we're targeting, putting ourselves in a position. Our sister, Sister M. Brown Bay, and she stays on the forefront of political change. Very familiar with most of the politicians here, are friends with them inside, because that's what our job is, to be a friend to mankind, as we want man to be friendly to thee. Why is I saying this, and why is it important? Because those friendships we learned from chapter 11 enable us to sit down and communicate with people, whereas under normal circumstances we would be able to do so. See, that's why I say we need a big brother sometime to change some things. See, if you went in California and tried to establish Sears, Target, Walmart, they wouldn't even let you do it. You go in there and say Moorish, I don't know how many Moorish demonstrations. You got to ask yourself why they let you do it when it's against the law. They even let me and you use the same name. Just check some of the states out. But when you establish a relationship with them and they clearly know who you are, they start cleaning up those areas. Yes. Now, you are correct, Brother Morning. You should the registration point. But I'm sure and I'll just say this, if you have an EIN number, you shouldn't have any problems doing it. And of course, if you didn't know, you should know that the organization can issue that to you. Or, and I know in our case we had actually filed for it ourselves, but we are a legitimate organization and only need to take the proper steps to register ourselves in those locations. You and I can talk at some other point on this with regard to the legal aspects of that. Yes. It seemed like tonight, because it was rather quiet, that we're the only ones here. You know.
You're the only one here. You just call them more than It's long.
It's well, praise the Lord. I thought before I called on Brother Morley, I asked if anyone there was quiet so long. I called on the Sheik and Grand Governor that I know is on point. He's right there waiting too, more. But praise the Lord. We have to begin to have these talks. And a lot of times Moors are unfamiliar with them. They'll start off, they'll be skeptical, especially when you start talking about things like, what they think they already know. That's why I know how to operate temple. I got to tell them. The question is are you successful? If you're not successful, then you can stand and sit down and talk about it. We're fine. See, we're not saying that we are greater than anyone else. We have some greater resources maybe than others. We've been around maybe longer than others. We have been having a temple for a while. We didn't just stumble up on one. We built it from scratch, and we've been doing this, most of you know, for 30 years or more. So what we bring to you is not something just thrown together. It's something done with research. This conference call, for those that may not know, each of the calls go together. You have Brother Changerville, which is doing the Quranic studies. You have Brother Eddington Hill, which will do the Moorish history, 1913 to the present, and that will be an excellent class. That is also one of my areas, but Brother Eddington Hill is our Supreme Grand Historian, and he will take us through that history. We're talking about the uncut version. We're not coming on these calls to shortchange anyone. We're trying to give these lessons out as they should be taught. We're not saying that someone else isn't teaching them. We're just saying what we are doing. Sister M. Brown Bay and Sister Moreland Eel. Sister M. Brown Bay and Sister Moreland Eel. Both of them are speakers. One is Assistant Grand Sheik, Sister M. Brown Bay, and Sister Moreland Eel is Grand Sheik. Sister Brown Bay is the national chairman of the Sisters Auxiliary, and Sister Moreland Eel, Sheik is Moreland Eel, is her assistant. They will have, I think, just the fourth Tuesday of the month, if I'm not, if my mind serves me right. They will be talking about the sisterhood. Brothers don't necessarily have to call in, because the sister like to talk to the sisters. And I would encourage brothers to have their wives call in. Their significant others, we have them, call in, so that the sisters can put them on track. And what they will be talking about is the sisters' role and place in the temple. This is very important because sisters are sometimes disrespected. Sisters that have positions are sometimes ignored by brothers. This is nothing I'm guessing. This is something I don't witness. This is something you have witnessed. So Sister Brown Bay and Sister Moreland Hill will be seeking to empower the sisters through the true teachings and knowledge of the prophet. Now, and I want to say this, all of the instructors that have been selected for this series of conference calls are qualified, so we don't need to go down that road. They have been selected based on their training, their skills, and the gifts that God has given them. So I pray that we come on these calls to listen and to learn, to gain from it, and in some cases, add to it. This is, as I said, this call was mostly an overview. The next call, I will have certain things, assignment. In fact, I'm asking everyone on the call to study their Moorish literature pamphlet in entirety, the whole thing, So when we come back on this Tuesday night call next month, we're going to talk about what the prophet says in that Moorish literature that we're supposed to be doing. We're going in and we're going to examine it. We're going to interpret it where it needs to be interpreted.
Yes.
So those are this is where we're going with this. Brother Morinell, as always, it has been a blessing talking to you. You have been true up front, about the issues going on in California. And I just say to you, keep demonstrating the prophet. Be the example that the prophet said. That's the first thing that you do. The other thing is, I'm going to send you a little format because we got to make them friends with people. We got to make friends with the government in different places. When I say friends, I say we're making friends. We're making ourselves flunkies or pawns. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about establishing relationship between one body of dignitaries and another body. Because we are leaders. In fact, if we go to government agencies, we should have on our sash or our ribbon badge along with our feathers doing official business. That doesn't just be hid up, and I know a lot more just hide it up in the temple. You can't wear that stuff. When you're going on official business as official representatives of the organization, you're supposed to be an official guard. So that's something else. What I'm going to do at this time, it appears to be 9:17. It's pushing close to that time. I didn't know Brother Turner Hill was on. Praise the Lord, he is. I will allow him to take us home from this point here. But what I will say is this. Those on the line that have my phone number, you can also call me. Those here, please know that when I discuss those documents that you may not have, they will be forwarded to you. Therefore, the Grand Governor should have your email address. All right. You should have your email address for that purpose. Those that remain on the call until August will receive a certificate of participation. It'll be a nice, beautiful certificate. And there will be those in August who will be tested on the information on these calls. The test will be done by video conference one-on-one, meaning that I will call you and through one of the video mediums, and we'll have a verbal test where you can look in the screen and won't have to look down on no piece of paper while you're talking to me. And those that pass that particular exam, which is based on these calls, will also receive a beautiful certificate with the organization's gold seals on it, to that effect, that you have taken this phase of the ministerial course. These calls are part of a ministerial course and are actually a part, although it's running to August, it's actually a part of one semester. We have to do it this way. Once, people start coming on the call, and then we can increase the curriculum to what it should be. But participation is important for that. So with that, I'll say peace and turn this over to my assistant and the Grand Governor of Maryland, Brother G. Turner Hill, Divine Minister. Islam.
Islam Moors, first and foremost, only a praise to Allah. I give honor to the Prophet Noble Ali. Give honor to the forerunner Prophet, Brother Marcus Garvey. I give honor to all whom honor is due. I give honor to each and every one of you here on this call. Praise Allah. I was listening to our Supreme Grand Governor and our brother in California, Brother Morinell. It made me think about several things in regards to the subject each Tuesday that we're going to be having as to the role of the temple, the role of the ministry in society. or in the community. One thing that I think that we all should look at, and I think when we have our Supreme Grand Historian on the line and going over the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America, we get our best example, we get our best standard of what the temple should be doing in society from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself, and how he established the temple and how the temple was operating at its height in 1920, 27, 28, 29. And it's during that time that we will see, or we begin to see or get a glimpse of the vision of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And understand that Allah sent us a prophet. He sent us an example for us to follow. The Prophet told the Moors for us to stop trying to figure our way and how our salvation will come. Just follow him. Simplicity. And the Holy Quran of Moorish Science of America talks about when we have acknowledged the simplicity of truth, it tells us to hold fast our fidelity unto her, because it's all about the simplicity of truth and not making this complicated. One of the things that I heard, and one of the issues that we tend to get stuck on, is recognition. Also, we tend to believe that we should be further ahead than what we are. However, we haven't done the work to be there. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, if you look, like I said, look during that time in 1927, 28, 29, the Moors, in following the Prophet's lead, built temples, purchased buildings, established established businesses, etc. All the things that we will be talking about that a temple should be doing in the community. Establish a relationship with the politicians and the various officials in the city and in the state. All of these things the Prophet Noble Drew Ali did, he did through working towards those things, towards building those type of relationships. And I'm putting emphasis on the working and the building, because a lot of times Moors will come in. Sometimes Moors will come into the temple and be educated in various areas and believe that from the things that they hear us say, that as an organization we should be doing or should be further along. The fact of the matter is that a lot of us come in under that same state of mind, or with that same thinking, but along the way, for some reason or another, we tend to not put in the necessary work to get us to that point. The temple should be an example in the community. The temple should be an example in the communities, but also in being that example, the temple should be building a community within the community, a place in which our brothers and our sisters and people can come to get the information that they need, whether it be from being ministered to from a spiritual level, or the divine ministry is large. Each situation is not the same. It requires a lot of time and patience and tolerance. If we want to stand out and be that example that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali intended for us to be, then we have to follow his example and strive to live his teachings more so than talk them to other people. Yes, we have to communicate verbally with other people, our brothers and our sisters, but at the same time, they have to see us living and working in what we're talking about. Because one thing that our people as a whole have had a lot of, and that's good talk throughout the years. Some good things, a lot of good things have been done, but at at different points in our history, for whatever reasons, outside influences or whatever, they have stopped. So our people have heard the talk. It's actually really about what we are doing in the community as a temple, as ministers, being able to communicate with people on all levels in a language in which they can understand. Because a lot of times we will speak the Moorish vernacular, right, to one another and be unable to articulate that same language to someone else who doesn't understand what we're talking about when we're talking to one another. We have to be able to speak to our people on a level where they're at. As Supreme Grand Governor saying, our prophet was close to his people, so close so that he had succumbed to the disease that was plaguing our people at that time, tuberculosis. That's how close he was to our people. He was right there. You know, a lot of times, I mean, we all are guilty of it. We will see our brothers and sisters in the community and acting out in a certain kind of way, and we don't want to deal with them. But the fact of the matter is, if I'm a minister of that mindset, I have a lot of more work to do. Because the prophet said we are to love instead of hate. You know, even when it comes down to our brothers or our sisters who we may differ with on different levels. We have to learn to love instead of hate. One of the things that I found unique in growing up in the Moorish Science Temple of America here in Baltimore with all the different temples, for the most part, we have a good rapport with one another. We are able to come together and have celebrations with to celebrate the Prophet manifestation day, that the New Year celebration that we just now had. We had Moors who were representatives of various temples. We don't openly attack or antagonize one another. But the thing that we need to do now, as the Supreme Grand Governor was saying, and which is part of my responsibility as the Grand Governor of the state of Maryland, is to reach out to my Moorish brothers and sisters who may not be in the same temple as I may be, but to reach out to them and we come together to do the work of the prophet. Because when we put the prophet out front, you look on, I always say this, you look on the divine constitution and bylaws. On the divine constitution and bylaws, you see the prophet Noble Drew Ali standing in between the law. On the Moorish American prayer, Allah is over top. Now, if you look closely at the divine constitution and bylaws, you will see those faithful members that the prophet Noble Drew Ali talk about in Acts 7. You'll see the faithful members there. Now, I know somebody saying, well, what are you talking about? You don't see nobody but the prophet on the divine constitution and bylaws. Because the prophet, the faithful members are standing behind the prophet. So when the public sees those members, they see the teachings of the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Thus, they see him. The prophet tells us to put him out front, and all will be well. So that's the great work that we have. Sometimes our personalities, sometimes our egos will come into play. And when they do, it's no wonder then that we're not where we're supposed to be or where we think we should be, because we're not letting the prophet lead. When we let the prophet lead, then we can come together and we can deal with any issue that there may be, because in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, there is an answer for any issue that we can find ourselves facing here in this life. Anything. Any issue. There is a verse, there is a chapter that will address it. The prophet was so masterful that he showed that he laid out the Holy Quran in such a way that we can build our families, we can build our communities, we can build our nation off of those teachings and have that same success that we had prior to us straying into the gods of Europe when we knew nothing of. So that's our biggest issue right now as a people. This is what I talk to my brothers and sisters about. Our biggest issue right now is that we're following behind those principles that allude to slavery. We're still living according to those principles. You know, so as the Supreme Grand Governor was saying, this is an overview of this particular call, which is going to happen every Tuesday. I mean, the second Tuesday of the month, where we're going to delve deeper into the role that the temple plays in society, and also we're going to discuss how how we can go about bringing the prophet's vision into a reality here in 2017. Yeah, I know we a lot of times, and I see it's 9:31 exact. It's 9:31 right now, but I want to say this, that I know that a lot of times when we talk about the time of the prophet, understand this. I know and understand it is 2017. But one thing that I know is this, that the standard that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali set during that time and what he was doing with the temple and the community at that time has yet to been duplicated since then. So we need to start there. And us trying to find ways to make it happen in 2017, we have to start there and then use the tools that we have at our disposal here in 2017 to make it happen. Islam more. With that, it's 9:32. I'm gonna thank you all for giving us your time. I know we all work, and in fact, I came straight from work and onto the call. So it's going to take some dedication. It's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take some up late some nights. It's going to take some work for us to accomplish what we are trying to accomplish. But the toll should be to us in pleasure. So all praise be to Allah. So what I'm gonna do at this time is I'm gonna close out. What we're gonna do. If there be any questions in regards to any of the subjects that we have each week, the two instructors that's going to be on the line will make themselves available to be called or emailed to address any questions. So if anybody don't have my email address or phone number, actually everybody on here at least has an email address to Subordinate Temple 13. You can email me, or if you have my number, you can call me. Islam?
Islam.
So with that, I want to close out, and this is what I want to do. And I've been thinking about this all day because I've listened to us, and actually when I came on, I think Sister Mola L had led in prayer. Was that Sister Mola L? Islam, sister, and that was probably like the best I ever heard in terms of leading in prayer over the phone or on a conference call. Because I understand that a lot of times it's hard to pick up the tone that is essential to reap the benefit of that congregational prayer. And I wanted to, this has been on my heart most of the day and thinking about this, that we have to understand the significance. The prophet gives us rituals that serve a benefit in our growth and development spiritually. There is a specific tone that when we say the Moorish American prayer together as a congregation, there's a specific tone that we are trying to get that will put us in the right frame of mind to have a high spiritual meaning. We'll talk about that more later, but what I want to do in closing is this, is that I'm going to lead in the Moorish American prayer in closing, and I want everybody to follow, say it with me as if we're in the temple, but say it silently to yourself for right now, and we're going to work on it that way first. Islam?
Islam.
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 Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
The Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, through Ali. Amen. Islam, more.
Islam.
Understand, and I heard my sister when she did the prayer. It's almost like a heart. It's almost like a heartbeat of a pause in between each one, which gives each participant the chance to recite it behind them. We're going to work on it and get better with it. All praise be to Allah, Moors. Peace and love.